Hey there, hope you have a good day so far. And my name is Zayne, and I currently work as a product management specialist at Toyota GB just outside of London. And I graduated studying business management with a placement at Newcastle University in 2017. Having relevant work experience is certainly an extra brownie point. However, if you do not have a relevant work experience, it's not the end of the world. I think regardless of whether it's work experience um, or extracurricular activities or anything else really, those are just experiences to help your employees to understand you better as a person. So in which case you mentioned about student athlete. So when you write that down in a CV, your employer will potentially ask you, oh, why do you want to become a student athlete? What have you learned of becoming a student athlete, and what's the greatest failure you faced and how did you overcome that? So it's not necessarily about finding the right job experience to go for the job that you want, but it's really about how well you can articulate your experience and how do you make the most out of what you have been doing in the past. And I think those are the things that the employers are really looking for, which is how can they use the experience that you have had to really understand who you are as a person. And yeah, I think personally, I think it's just a way of them getting to know you better, and it really doesn't matter whether it's a work experience or it's an extracurricular activity or it's a personal hobby. So there you go. I hope that helps. And for me, really, I like to keep things really, really simple. And for me, I think there are two skills that any employers are really, really looking for. So the first skill is what we call a hard skill. And the second skill is what we call a soft skill. Now, a hard skill, in other words, are also technical skills. These are things that require very specific knowledge and very specific technicalities in order to do or fulfill the job's role. The soft skills are all the human skills. So in how you work with people, about teamwork, about stakeholder management, that kind of stuff, leadership, that kind of stuff. So I think dependent on which industry you want to get into and what kind of role, the nature, the type of the job you want to get into, that will then determine which of these two skills take more of a priority. They are both equally important, but which one of them take more of a priority? So in your case, for example, you studied pharmacy. Now you might want to become a pharmacist, or you might want to get into R&D at some stage. And to me, those type of jobs requires more of a hard skill, more of a technicality. You need to understand chemistry, you might need to understand human biology, etc., etc. But if you want to go work for a pharmaceutical company where it's a sales role or it's more of a commercial driven role, then technicalities might not be as important, whereas human skills take more of a priority in which case. Now, take me, for example, I studied business, I'm quite good at the soft skills side, but if I want to become a programmer, it's going to be quite hard because I need to understand or learn the hard skills, which are learning how to code, learning about C++, C++, or Python or whatever. So then there's a mismatch in terms of skills there. So I think instead of asking yourself what makes you more hireable, I think first is to have a very rough idea of which kind of job interests you and what's the type and the nature of that sort of role, because that will then determine whether you need to place more of a focus on building your core skills, your hard skills, your technical skills, or your human skills. So I hope that helps. I think you were expecting to hear some answers about writing a CV, cover letter, interview, assessment centers. Those are all the process and procedures which you will have to go through, and you will really have to know how to navigate you through these different application processes. So for example, some tips I could give you are: don't use the same CV to send to every company. Really spend the time and take the effort to tailor your CV and cover letter to make sure your work experience or whatever that you're writing in your cover letter, for example, really matches what the company is looking for in terms of the type of person or the type of character they are really looking for to fulfill the job that they want you to do. But here's the greatest lesson I can share with you, which is using my experience. So when I was looking for a graduate job or a placement opportunity, my principle is that I will only go for a job that genuinely makes me interested or wanting to explore or wanting to understand that role or do that job, etc. So interest in the role itself for me is absolutely crucial, and I'll tell you why. So think about this: if you just play a numbers game, if you just apply for lots and lots and lots of jobs and hoping that by increasing the denominator you will get one job, then you're playing the numbers game really. And I think by doing that, you have to you'll see it more as a chore. So all the preparation work, etc., you'll see it as a chore, and you won't put all your effort and do whatever it takes to secure that job. Whereas today, if you go and look for a job that you have an interest in, or you work for a brand that you're genuinely passionate for, then the motivation, or when you face some difficulties or adversities, then you will actually inherently want to persevere through it. You will actually find solutions to get through them. You will actually want to overcome those hurdles, those challenges, because it is a job that you have that you care for. It's a brand that you really love. So I think for me, all those application process and how to write a CV, those are very important. So whatever the career service share with you are crucial. But what I would share with you is a principle, which is only go for the job that genuinely interests you or genuinely spark an interest inside you, or work for the brand that you have a passion for. I cannot stress how important this actually is, and no one really talks about it. So don't play the numbers game, and go for what you love, and just do your best. I think anything that can help them to better understand you as a person, as an individual, is the most important thing in your application process. So this can come from your past work experience, this can come from your extracurricular activities, this can come from your personal hobbies, this can come from your personal interest. So share a quick story with you. When I wrote my CV down, and one of the things I wrote in my CV was my hobby, and one of the hobbies I wrote down was I genuinely like magic, and I used to do part-time magic performance, perform tricks for your families, for your friends, etc. And then when I went for an interview, the hiring manager actually asked me, the first question she asked me was, "Oh, I can see that in your CV you wrote something about being a magician. Can you tell me more about that? What have you learned about being a magician? What's the best trick you have performed to someone, and why does magic interest you? What have you learned by performing to people, etc." So I think those are the things that your employers are really looking for inside you. The application process is just a way of them getting to know you better as a person. They want to know who you are. So first of all, in terms of the placement experience overall, I would say without a doubt that is the best thing that could ever happen in my life. And if I may use a very strong word, I would even say that experience, that year that I took out of university, genuinely changed my life and made me who I am today. And I'll tell you why. Because I think doing a placement, it really helped me learn a lot about myself. It, I really get an understanding about what I enjoy doing, what I don't like doing. And when you go into a workplace, it really gives you the environment to grow as a person, and you have different challenges and you have to find ways to get through it. So for example, even the accent of my English you're hearing now is a result of me doing a placement year, because I pick up the phone calls, rang a few people. People just said to me they can't understand my English, and I know I have to do something different, which is why I then train myself to speak English in a specific way so that people can understand me better. So, you know, it helps me a lot personally, and also the placement experience is what enabled me to land a job after graduation. So yeah, so it also helps me in final years of assignment, etc., and my dissertation, because you have to network, and then when you write things down, or when the lecturer is talking about a specific topic, you actually have the real life experience, and then that will help you to build a case as to what was taught in school was actually right, or does it give you a different perspective because what you experience in the real life is something completely different. In terms of arranging the placement, yes, I did it all by myself. And what I'll tell you is this right now, I'm very honest and upfront with you. It's not easy. It really is not easy. It's a very competitive place to look for a placement, because everyone basically is looking for it, because everyone knows how valuable such experience is. However, what I would tell you is this. If something was easy, then everyone else will be doing it. Because it isn't, someone will give up, and you cannot be the person who gives up, because once you hang through it, once you keep going, once you find ways to go through those challenges, that will then open up a lot of doors for you, and before you know it, you'll also be someone who may be like me, you know, being on this side, sharing some experience with the students, and have a genuine passion of wanting to share some knowledge and experience to help people who are going through the same process now, and to give them a bit of encouragement. So again, just to stress the points, without a doubt, if you really thought about doing a placement experience, I would say genuinely go for it. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be so worth it, and I can promise you that. Regardless of whether or not you're an entrepreneur or you just want to achieve success in general, I think there are two key attributes for me personally that I would encourage you to really explore and think about. One is flexibility, and the other is perseverance. I now explain. So, if you listen to any successful entrepreneur, I think they will all tell you that entrepreneurship is a very tough, a very lonely journey. You have to face a lot of setbacks. You have to roll your sleeves up and actually do things yourself. You know, you have to constantly learn what's going on in the outside world. And I think because of that, and because of how quickly technology and the outside world is currently changing, as an entrepreneur, I think you really have to learn to be flexible in your approach. You have to be flexible in how you work with people. You have to be flexible in how you adapt your technology in your business model, how you design your product, how do you meet your customers' needs, how does your customer journey flow, etc., etc. And you know, I think you have to really be open to learning, and to be open for feedback. You know, if people tell you that something doesn't work, you really have to have the curiosity and be flexible to find out that can you do things better, can you do things differently, to make sure that you can achieve the end result you wanted in a more effective and efficient way. So you know, personally, I think that if you don't have that, if you don't have the flexibility, if you just think that your way is the only right way to get around things and get things done, then to me that's a lot of ego and arrogance, and that's not true entrepreneurship. The second attribute I would say is perseverance. You know, without repeating what I just said earlier, any successful entrepreneur would tell you it's a very tough journey. And I think, you know, you have to really look at the reality. There are a lot of people who start a business and they are very successful, and you know them all very well. But there are also a bunch of people who have started businesses and have failed miserably. there are always two sides to the same thing. But I think what really separates one, the successful ones, from the other is the perseverance that they hang through. You know, when they face setbacks, when they have challenges, when they face a huge amount of rejection, when their friends are laughing at them, you know, when they're going through really hard times, they, in their mind, giving up is not an option. They know it's a process they have to get through. They know it's the universe testing them, challenging them to see whether they have the guts to become a true entrepreneur. That's why they hang through it. They find ways to get through it. They keep going. They persevere through the pain. And, you know, if you do get it past that stage, I genuinely believe that with great pain will come great gains. And I think for those successful entrepreneurs, you know, when they look back, I'm pretty sure they will say that those days were necessary for them to really enjoy the fruits and the rewards that they have built today.